waiting for you. One by one we will take you.
Tim, we're doing a top 5.
Another top 5?
Another top 5. And for us, that ends up translating into a top 10.
It does.
So
and, I've always said there's not enough top 5s on YouTube.
And what are we doing this week? What's our particular one? Now, I will preface all of this by saying, as I always do, what's the criteria? What did you use? Yada, yada. My criteria for this one was you had to have seen the movie. That led to a list of 11 titles that I haven't seen in the past 5 years that I want to see really bad. Doing this research, I was going, oh my God. And some of those I've added to honorable mention just because I need to see
hype.
them. I need, yeah. Based
After
on
our last top 5?
Yeah, based on everything I'm hearing, I need to see them, science fiction wise. So
I agree with the criteria. I too said you have to have seen the movie.
Yeah.
And I did not keep track, but as I was going through looking at the last 5 years worth of horror films, there were at least 3 that immediately slapped me in the face and said, oh, you need to see this because it would have probably been on here.
Yeah.
It's your sister, Cheryl!
My number 5 is going to be Andrew Muschietti's It. Chapter 1. I had to have a Stephen King on here. I mean, that was just an obvious for me because, Stephen King is kind of the master of horror. And if you go back and look at the miniseries that came out in the 90s, it really just does not hold up. Andrew Muschietti took the good things, I think, from the book.
And cast it well. I do think he made a mistake in not doing the cross-editing of dividing it up. Here's the kids, here's the adults. And I thought that was an issue with it because that's what I loved about the structure of the book. And that's what I actually liked about the original miniseries too. I liked it going back and forth between the kids and the...
I do too, but I think that what he did is great. And fact that he adapted it for a modern audience is even better. I mean, there were things in there like not the classic horror film stuff that we know from the book where he updated it into something more modern.
Yeah.
And I thought the kids were great.
Yes. And Skarsgård was great as Pennywise.
I lost our 2.
My number 5 goes back ways too. It goes back to 2017, the very last, first of our 5-year arc sort of thing. And it's War of the Planet of the Apes, the third one in that series of remake. Matt Reeves directed it. It's a great fitting conclusion to the whole Caesar arc storytelling. It is very well done. It was a good science fiction film for the past.
Oh, I love that whole series. Yeah. That reboot great. Series for sure. And speaking of newer films,
they're coming to get you, Barbara.
And my number 4 actually crosses over into your genre a bit. And I'm going to go with John Krasinski's A Quiet Place. I loved this movie because, as you know, I have an affinity for post-apocalyptic movies. And this one basically starts after something really terrible has happened and most of humanity is gone. It's also a very unique and original idea in that it's creatures that hunt via sound and not sight. I've always thought the same about when I was writing my zombie book. I think that quiet would be paramount because that's how they find you, if they hear you. And I think the cast is wonderful. Of course, Krasinski's in it, along with Emily Blunt and those 2 great kids. I can't remember their names. I just think it's a great movie.
And I would agree. If I was doing your genre, I would definitely have that on my list. My number 4, very science fiction and very weird for me because, as those who follow the podcast know, I'm not a big anime fan. However, Alita Battle Angel from 2019, I think is a great science fiction film. Excellent casting, incredible effects. It was directed by Robert Rodriguez. And this required the protagonist to be augmented the entire movie almost because she has anime eyes. She has those great big huge blinky anime eyes and anime hair and all of that. And it's a great story. Again, post-apocalyptic, so you might like it, but strong storytelling and a strong entry into the anime thing without going so bizarre that we don't, understand what's going on.
Very cool.
Beat them or burn them. They go up pretty easy.
My number 3, you are going to disagree with, but I'm going with Ari Aster's Hereditary. I love this movie. The cast,
many people do.
I mean, there are some strange moments that kind of don't make sense. Like Tony Collette cutting her own head off. But I have to
Details.
say the fact that Tony Collette is in this movie right there lifts it above the average genre fare. That and the rest of the cast, it is a slow burn dread movie where you just have this gut feeling like you're going to be sick. It's like, oh, it's coming. I know it is, and I can't avoid it. A lot of people do not agree with me. I'm sorry if you're one of those that need jump scares and just gore, because this one's so memorable and so effective.
My number 3, again, a controversial one. Don't know if you'll like it, and I think you do like it, but I know a lot of people don't. Captain Marvel from 2019. Cannot understand the backlash that this movie got for her and for everything else. I don't understand that at all.
It was mainly her performance that got critiqued, wasn't it?
Right, Brie Larson, and I thought she did a great job. You know, she's thrown into some very weird situations, and I love the way she reacted to them. I thought her internal monologues worked. I thought she was great. Sam Jackson, of course. It was just a great Marvel movie and a good science fiction film.
Why are you torturing me like this?
My number 2 is Get Out by Jordan Peele. You'll see I have a thing going with directors here, kind of, because these are directors that respect the genre and know the history of the genre. Ari Aster clearly did with Hereditary and the Rosemary's Baby homages, but Get Out goes back to Ira Levin as well, with like Stepford Wives type stuff, only with a racial slant. So topical, so relevant. I mean, I don't recall very many horror movies that are historically relevant, and this is one of them. Night of the Living Dead is one of them too. Can't say enough good things about this movie, and I'm really looking forward to other stuff he has coming.
My number 2 is, again, somewhat controversial, especially to fan-based people, but my number 2 is Solo, a Star Wars story. I really liked that film.
I'm shocked.
I thought Rogue One was going to be on this list, but it was prior to the 5 years, so couldn't do that. The lead actor, who unfortunately I do not remember his name, although I wish he had added some Harrison Ford-isms in there a little bit just to give it a tweak. If that had happened, it would have been even better, but I loved the story of it. I thought it was a great setup piece for what Mandalorian could become, kind of thing, and telling a different element of the Star Wars world.
Well, you've just totally blown me away, because I kind of dismissed that movie because of what everyone said, and now I think I want to watch it.
No, I think you should watch it. Again, it's his performance, I think, needs a little tweaking, but overall, it's Ron Howard directed it, so it's got a really cool feel to it.
Well, that brings us to my number 1. And this is going to be controversial, as we keep saying, as far as our choices. I am choosing Midsommar. So I have 2 Ari Aster movies on here. Midsommar is better to me than Hereditary and is a beautiful film, and another one of those slow dread films where he pays homages to movies of the past, mostly folk horror, including The Wicker Man, about a strange cultish society that exists on the peripheral, and, you know, human sacrifice is called for. Love this movie. It introduced me to Florence Pugh, who is just a stellar actress.
Wow.
A lot of the others in the cast, I appreciate it as well. Their names don't come to me, but that is definitely my number 1 of the last 5 years. So
I think that's a great choice. That I would totally agree with you. My number 1, maybe you'll agree with it as well, science fiction of the past 5 years, is Blade Runner 2049. A fitting sequel to a huge science fiction film that literally changed design, changed filmmaking for science fiction, storytelling for science fiction and film, everything. And to step up and say, hey, I'm going to do the sequel to that movie, that took a lot. And I thought they did a brilliant job with it. The storytelling works, the design, which was probably the biggest deal of Blade Runner. Some people hate Harrison Ford's performance, some people like it, same way with Rutger Hauer, same way with some of the other actors in it, but they love the design work of that projection of what the future would look like on Earth. And I think 49 continued that and did it in a really good way.
That's interesting. But my question to you is, how many sequels are on your list?
Well, do you consider Captain Marvel a sequel because it ties into the MCU?
Not necessarily. But I would consider maybe Solo. a
Solo
sequel.
definitely is Blade
Yeah.
Runner and War. All three are.
I know. I mean, isn't that
Continuations.
weird that you have sequels on your list? I am shocked by that.
That is true, and because I'm always going original, get out there, tell new stories, go back to books, everything else.
But clearly, these are good sequels that do expand upon the subject. So
True. Now, do you have honorable mentions? Do you have
I
any?
not only have honorable mentions, but I have just out of range mentions.
Oh, that's
I have
interesting.
3 of each. So
Okay.
these 3 will easily end up on our regular podcast list. And they are The Invisible Man, which I just watched, a movie I watched last year called His House that I talked about in one of our genre weeks before one of our podcasts. Great movie. And another one called It Comes at Night.
Okay.
So those are my 3 honorable mentions.
My 3 honorable mentions would be The Invisible Man, which I still haven't seen.
Oh,
So that's why it's an honorable mention, because you've highly recommended, and so have
Yeah.
several other people. Prey, the latest sequel to The Predator, which has some great hype on Netflix and everything else.
Mhm.
And of course, Dune, which I haven't seen, but the Dune is supposedly incredible and great, directed by the same guy that did my number 1, Blade Runner
Villanueva.
2040. Yeah, the V guy, Denise Villeneuve or whatever. Yeah.
Villanueva. Yeah.
Yep.
Mhm.
So those are my 3 honorable mentions. Yeah,
Okay. And then
and
I
all
have,
3 I have not seen.
I have 3 out of range, and they all 3 would have radically changed this list.
And they all came out in the same year?
They're really close to being 5 years out.
Okay.
And they are It Follows,
Mm.
The Witch,
Yeah.
and Train to Busan.
Wow. All
Yeah.
those came out in the same year?
Yeah, well, 2 of them I think came out in 2016. It Follows may have been a little earlier. I can't remember exactly, but they're all really, really close right there on the line.
Wow. Well, and I'll just counter with, I have 3 that I added. Again, these that I haven't seen that I think look incredible. And maybe if you guys out there have seen them, let me know before I watch them, if I should. But one is called Vivarium, and I found it, and it looks really interesting. And again, that pseudo dystopic society sort of film with a couple who can't get out, mystery box. But the other one was Sputnik, a Russian foreign film, which I'm going to look up and I'll probably watch within the next 2 weeks, just so I can say, Tim, I watched a foreign film. The basic story being almost like Andromeda Strain. They have a probe that brings back an alien life form to Earth. And Tenet. Tenet was the first major motion picture released post-pandemic. It's Christopher Nolan, but it's gotten bad reviews. So I don't know. That's another reason why I haven't watched it yet. So
Well, that'll do it.
Our top 5-10 with 16 more.
Yeah. Yeah. Our top 5/10 with at least 6 to 10 honorable mentions. If that's not enough for you, you could always watch our regular show where we do talk about these movies in depth, a lot of these movies, and that is Johnny Has the Keys. If you're looking for new, like us, we're always looking for something new. You can catch our show Coming to Get You, which is also on YouTube. Occasionally I do things that are on Shudder if you're a Shudder fan, and if you don't think that's enough, you can always hop over to Patreon where we go in depth on shows about Star Trek and the X-Files.
Yes.
And I think that's going to do us for this week.
Till next time, more of Top 5s.
Top 5.
You can't start the car. Johnny